first up, though, is the rule of law crisis, the constitutional crisis, the coup cabal, Obamagate, Spygate, FISAgate, you name it. It is all coming to a head again, thanks to something that Judicial Watch has been promoting, really, obviously all of our time here, certainly during the entire period of the attacks on then candidate Trump and now President Trump. Transparency. Transparency is key to accountability, and we're seeing it this week where you had the acting OD&I director, the director of the Office of Director of National Security, National Intelligence, disclose the names of those senior Obama administration officials who sought to unmask General Flynn from intelligence reports. And the list is just astonishing. The list includes, and he sent the letter disclosing the names to two senators, Senator Charles Grassley and Ron Johnson, who have been investigating these issues. The list includes 5 unmaskings by Samantha Power, Obama's UN ambassador, 3 unmaskings by James Clapper, who's Director of National Intelligence, so that was one of Grinnell's predecessors under Obama. You had also, excuse me, my thing is flipping here. 2 unmaskings by John Brennan, and this is, by the way, just one American they're targeting. Jacob Lew, who is Secretary of Treasury under Obama, top Treasury officials. James Comey, of course. The president's the president's chief of staff, Barack Obama's chief of staff, and last but not least, and of course there's a whole series of names here, I'm not going to read them all, the Vice President of the United States, Joe Biden, unmasked General Flynn's name. Each of those unmaskings, to the degree they were improper, and I think almost all of them were a violation of General Flynn's rights and an attack on our constitutional republic. Because all of these unmaskings took place after Trump won, but before he was inaugurated. So in essence, what you had was Obama and his top people, and when I say Obama, I mean it. His chief of staff unmasked Flynn the day, according to Sally Yates, of the Oval Office meeting in which Obama disclosed to Yates that he knew about the conversations that were unmasked here. The conversation, evidently, that Flynn had with the ambassador to Russia. So you had Obama, Joe Biden, all of the top people of the Obama administration spying on the incoming administration. The National Security Advisor, the incoming National Security Advisor, General Flynn, had every right to talk to the ambassador to Russia. Every right. It was lawful and it was proper. And they pretended it was something that was not supposed to be done, and they used it as an excuse to not only spy on him, but spy on countless others. How do I know that? Because Devin Nunes, who is a hero in this story, who first exposed this unmasking scandal, I think it's now 2 years ago, has said that this is just the tip of the iceberg. There were other Trump officials that were also unmasked. Trey Gowdy on Fox this week, he said that they were unmasking people on Inauguration Day. So they're walking out the door and they're still spying on the Trump team. And of course, nothing's been done about this yet. And if you have any question about Obama's involvement, this should answer it. Now, of course, the left immediately went into overdrive to defend the indefensible here. First of all, they start lying about the numbers, pointing to ridiculous, irrelevant numbers about the number of unmaskings that take place every year. Now, what is an unmasking? So our intelligence community spies on foreigners. No surprise. And sometimes in that spying, they pick up the names, either communications from Americans or discussions about Americans. And sometimes that information is necessary to understand what's happening, and that person's name is unmasked. Typically, when reports are given to senior officials of an administration, they are laundered in the sense that you have intelligence professionals looking at the reports, looking at the raw data, and deciding what it is their clients, their customers need to see. So when you have senior officials asking that names be unmasked, they're overriding the judgment of the bureaucracy that they're supposed to be. You know, we're all told they're the experts, right? Now, it doesn't mean they don't have a right to do that, but they have to have a legitimate basis to unmask and use this authority to find out what Americans are doing abroad. And the fact is, it's rarely done at the senior level as it's being done here. Sidney Powell, who is the lawyer, the excellent lawyer for General Flynn, she noted this week that General Flynn, in all of his time, he's a senior, ran the NSA, senior general in the national security establishment. Flynn unmasked one person in all of his career. So when you hear that there are thousands of unmaskings, don't you believe it? Because I don't know for a fact, but I am reasonably sure, based on my knowledge, that there are few unmaskings done at the senior level. And to the degree there were a lot done at the senior level, it happened in 2016, and it was probably political. So when they talk about unmaskings, they're not telling you who was doing the unmasking. So let's say there were 10,000 unmaskings last year. Well, if that was done by the intelligence professionals who are looking at this raw data as it comes in, and they're trying to figure out what's up, what's down, before they show it to the bosses, that would be perfectly appropriate. But to have the President of the United States, through his chief of staff, unmask an American citizen like this, of an incoming president, the top senior level, a top official of an incoming president and his successor, to have Biden do it seemingly only because this ambassador's phone call showed up in the newspaper. You have to remember also that this unmasking also led to illegal leaks of the contents of the call to the Washington Post. So here we have a list of people that John Durham, if he's doing a competent job, would be bringing before a grand jury, including Joe Biden, including the President of the United States, Barack Obama, or the former President of the United States, Barack Obama. I think he's still trying to run the show from behind the scenes through this attack on Trump, that's for sure. But this is extraordinary, and it shows you how important that transparency is to the rule of law here, at least to accountability. Because the State Department had this information, the FBI obviously had this information, all the agencies, Treasury had this information, all the agencies who unmasked Flynn had this information. None of them fessed it up. In fact, we were asking for Samantha Power's unmasking request from the State Department. We sued. And they said they couldn't tell us anything about it, including how many unmasking requests she made, because the news was that she had unmasked hundreds of people. Completely inappropriate. The sheer number suggests something else was going on. And the State Department was covering it up. And thank you, Ambassador Grinnell, who used to be ambassador to Germany, who's now stepping in to fill the ODNI slot till there's a permanent replacement, John Ratcliffe. He's been pushing this information out. And it's driving the left crazy. They're saying he's abusing the system by disclosing abuses of the system. That's the Alice in Wonderland approach that the liberal media and the Democratic cabal, and it is Democratic, would have you believe. To highlight government abuse is abusive. To expose government misconduct is government misconduct. It's Orwellian. It's absolutely Orwellian. And I know the president's been using the term Obamagate, and I think it's an appropriate term. Because, you know, if you've been following Judicial Watch, if you've been following our weekly updates here or watching our press releases, you know we knew Obama knew. Of course, the media doesn't want anyone to know that. But it goes back again, and I think it's important to remember, there was this January 5th, 2017 meeting at the end of the Obama administration. Biden was there, Comey was there, Susan Rice was there, Obama obviously was there, Sally Yates was there, I think Brennan was there. A top leadership team of the White House, of the administration. And they're talking about the dossier. Comey tells Obama, I'm going to confront Trump with it tomorrow. He was then president-elect. And Obama's, according to Comey, Obama's like, you know, Comey never discloses anything Obama says to him, but he said that Obama was like, in terms of his physical reaction, good luck with that. So he had the endorsement of Obama to go and spy on Trump the next day, because he wasn't going to give President Trump a defensive briefing on the dossier allegations that they knew was salacious and unverified, yet they went and tried to corner President-elect Trump with it anyway. It was an ambush. So that flowed out of the Obama Oval Office meeting. And as I described previous, Sally Yates disclosed to the Office of Special Counsel, the Mueller Special Counsel operation, by the way, Mueller hid this from us, that Obama, to her surprise, brought up the phone call between Flynn and Kislyak and suggested that they were going to withhold information from the incoming White House. And she wasn't quite sure what was going on. And then she realized it as things progressed, because she was held over by Trump as acting attorney general, that what Obama meant was the Logan Act, and it helped explain why Comey was trying to ambush Flynn despite her objections, and why Comey didn't want to tell the Trump White House about the supposed concerns they had about what Flynn supposedly was telling the Russian ambassador. So you got the spy operation against Trump, the ambush interview from against Flynn, all arising from that single Oval Office meeting. It puts Obama at the scene of the crime. He's the head of the conspiracy. And of course, prior to that, you had the text messages where Page and Strzok are talking about how POTUS wants to know everything, the White House wants in on everything. And then, of course, President Obama, shortly after Trump is elected, orchestrates this intelligence community assessment that smears President Trump as being a beneficiary of a Russian intervention campaign. The Russians wanted him to win. In fact, the evidence was actually the opposite. They were working literally with Hillary Clinton. How does that work, that they want Trump to win if they're working with Hillary Clinton? So it was all part of a smear operation against President-elect Trump, and then in the incoming, and then the new administration with the attack on Flynn. So this is a direct assault on our Republican form of government. It was an assault on the rule of law, and it's seditious. They're trying to destabilize and overthrow the government. It started with Flynn, it metastasized through Mueller, and it resulted in the impeachment. Because part of the impeachment was that they were worried that Trump was asking the wrong questions about what went on during the campaign in terms of the Ukrainian coordination with the Obama-Clinton gang to take out Trump, and how Biden may have been a beneficiary of some of these machinations by protecting his son from prosecution or investigation in Ukraine. So that's why, in part, Trump had to be removed. You know, in some ways, it's interesting. There are two issues here. It's Trump. They hate Trump. They want to destabilize him. They want to remove him from power. And one of the reasons for doing so, besides just the sort of policy differences that they think they can pursue through criminal means, is they wanted to protect themselves from prosecution. What better way to freeze the Justice Department and freeze the administration from investigating the type of corruption I'm talking today than to have impeachments, than to have special counsels? That was what was going on. And as I said last week, Judicial Watch has been virtually alone from the beginning in calling them out on it. We knew it was a coup. We knew it was a complete abuse of power by the Justice Department and the FBI, not only in the targeting of Flynn, but later President Trump. And then Devin Nunes starts coming out with information. The left tries to destroy him. Of course, he was right. And it continues. It continues. Just today, I think it's today, Biden said he won't pardon Trump. What does that mean? It means that if Biden is elected, he's going to do this all over again and try to prosecute Trump and people around him. It's never going to stop. And in the meantime, this Justice Department has done nothing in terms of legal accountability for these wild abuses, whether it be FISA-gate, whether it be the lies of McCabe and Comey. Nothing's been done. Absolutely nothing. And they're running out of time. Maybe there'll be a grand jury panel tomorrow, and all the witnesses will come out, and they'll have an indictment in 3 weeks of big people. But do you think that's going to happen? I don't know. Persuade me otherwise. Persuade me otherwise. And now we've got the judiciary involved in it. I mean, I have to say, I have been shocked by Judge Sullivan. You know, Judge Sullivan we knew relatively well in terms of court. You know, Judge Sullivan was the judge in our big case over the Cheney Energy Task Force back in 2003 or so. And he granted us discovery into that task force. He was overruled. That case went all the way to the Supreme Court. So he was interested in getting some accountability there. During the Clinton email, in 2015 and 16, Judge Sullivan granted Judicial Watch discovery, and it was in 2016 that we were deposing and bringing in all sorts of Clinton email witnesses, which resulted in the FBI having to actually do some work because we were showing them up. And it was a major contributing factor in educating the American people, Judge Sullivan's handling of that case and allowing Judicial Watch to get discovery about the Clinton email scandal. One could argue, but for Judge Sullivan allowing us to take discovery, that Hillary Clinton would be president. I mean, I also remember, and the Wall Street Journal talked about this today and going through some of Judge Sullivan's, because he's a well-known judge here in D.C. We were in a fight with the Obama IRS, and they were hiding records or refusing. I forget the detail of the fight, but the judge issued an order, and they weren't complying with the order. And Judge Sullivan threatened to hold the IRS commissioner in contempt, Obama's IRS commissioner, and the lawyers. And I tell you, I remember, you remember things like that pretty well, because you don't want to be in a courtroom when a federal judge is yelling at someone like that and directing their ire at someone like that. Even if you're not the target, you don't want to be in the courtroom, because you never know. Maybe the judge is going to get angry at us. And in terms of prosecutorial misconduct, one of the most famous cases in recent history is the prosecution of Ted Stevens, the senator, late senator now from Alaska, where they were caught. The Justice Department was caught hiding exculpatory information from Stevens. You know, and Sullivan was rightly furious at that. And pursued the Justice Department as vigorously as a judge possibly can over that misconduct. So when you get this new information coming out that the FBI and Justice Department withheld exculpatory information from General Flynn's legal defense team in violation of Judge Sullivan's orders, imagine my surprise when Judge Sullivan says, rather than dropping the case the Justice Department thought shouldn't proceed, obviously because it is prosecutorial misconduct, Judge Sullivan invites a left-leaning judge to come in as, quote, friend of the court, to help him to argue, quote, the government's case against Flynn. and suggest to him whether or not he should be pursuing criminal charges against Flynn on his own for, quote, perjury. The thinking is that Flynn, in saying he was guilty, was lying, so should be prosecuted because he wanted to withdraw his plea. And he's also setting up a process to invite third-party amicus briefs, friends of the court, it's called, into the process. General Flynn, imagine this. Imagine you're facing your questions about your freedom, and the government admits wrongdoing, says they want to drop the case, and the judge says, hold on, no, I don't want to drop the case. I'm going to bring in someone who under our Constitution has no power to prosecute anyone, and I'm going to let them make the case as to why you should go to jail. It's a terrible abuse, and it can't stand. I don't know what the legal team for Flynn is going to do. Maybe the Justice Department will file an immediate appeal. What's going on there? I don't know what's come over Judge Sullivan. Maybe he's mad that he was gamed by the government. If so, he should be taking it out on the government. If anything, I thought Judge Flynn should do, Judge Sullivan should do, he should be pursuing criminal contempt proceedings or contempt proceedings against the government for violating his orders. I mean, I think during the Stead Stevens case, he had a magistrate kind of try to figure out what went on there. That wouldn't be inappropriate. And if he thinks that General Flynn lied in some improper way, and I don't think he did, he can refer to the Justice Department. In our system, judges aren't prosecutors. And as legal commentators have pointed out, you had a 9-0 decision recently out of the Supreme Court. You can look it up. You can Google Flynn and Supreme Court and Sullivan. It will pop up. Judge Ginsburg, Justice Ginsburg of all people, she excoriated the Ninth Circuit after the parties had basically left for hiring or appointing amicus friends of the court to start arguing the case one way or another. And in that case, it was on behalf of the defendant, who wasn't even before him. In this case, Judge Sullivan wants to put a third party in place of the prosecutor. And by the way, the retired judge that Judge Sullivan wants to appoint or has appointed wrote an op-ed just a few days ago attacking both both Barr and the Trump administration. So he's already decided what Judge Sullivan should be able to do. So it isn't like he even is invited in a dispassionate observer. I don't know what's come over Judge Sullivan, but the courts, to a degree, either the Justice Department or General Flynn's lawyers are going to, I hope, immediately file what is called a writ of mandamus against the court to stop this illicit activity by the court. And this is why the president has to use the pardon power as well. I mean, you have Biden threatening prosecutions. You have a court threatening prosecutions completely outside the rule of law, in my review. And even if General Flynn gets off on this, he will. He's not going to be prosecuted for the crime that he didn't commit. Justice Department doesn't want to prosecute him. You've got the Biden gang who's going to come in if they win and try to prosecute him again. Or who knows what the Justice Department's going to do. So the president may need to wrap this all up with a pardon for not only Flynn, but others. I see Judge Paul Manafort's been let out of jail because of this coronavirus silliness. I don't believe anyone should be let out of jail for that. I just don't understand what's happening there, but that's another matter. But the fact is, he's been let out of jail like a lot of other convicted criminals have been. Manafort should not have to go back to jail. If I were the president, I would make sure that happen. He gets the pardon or a commutation of his sentence. Roger Stone, I think his delay, his case, his incarceration has been delayed because of the coronavirus as well. He should be pardoned. You know, everything I'm hearing is that we're going to get more releases of information, and I'm very proud of Judicial Watch's role in this, because this information has been front and center for us. We've been suing for it. We've been pushing the administration aggressively to release this information. And we've had allies on the Hill doing it as well, and obviously friends in the media. You know, we're also, you know, I know the left just looks down at people like Sean Hannity and other folks at Fox News. But Sean Hannity did as much as anyone to support the rule of law in this area, and he was righter than right on a lot of these issues. But we have got pending litigation on all of the issues that we're talking about, and some of the litigation that we sued for initially, we couldn't get anywhere. We had to end the cases. We had that happen in the unmasking case in the State Department, I believe. So it looks like we're going to have to reopen them or refile them, either based on new FOIAs or maybe try to reopen them as they are. I don't know. But I want to go back. General Flynn is a crime victim. Durham should investigate all the people who unmasked him. Those unmaskings on their face were not legitimate. And we need to know more. Now, that being said, this information has been out there for a long time, meaning we haven't had access to it. But as I said, Devin Nunes knew about it. That's why he was so viciously attacked by Schiff and others, because he knew what happened. They're trying to take him off the table, remove his piece from the table, and they were not successful. So they've had this information for years and they haven't done anything with it. And let's not be naive to think they're going to start doing anything with it now. This is why I think the Justice Department is so morally bankrupt. FBI, similarly so. And it doesn't mean Barr is a bad guy. It doesn't even mean Wray is a bad guy. It just means institutionally, those agencies have been so corrupted that their infrastructure is so rotten, they can't be expected to do the heavy lifting in prosecutions like this. This is why the president should appoint, in my view, and you know, I could be wrong here. I'm happy to debate it, be persuaded otherwise, a special counsel that directly reports to him and not to the Justice Department. Yeah, maybe he can have Attorney General Barr help supervise him for him. But the fact is, the president should be running the investigation, because Justice Department right now is being asked to investigate itself on these FISA-gate abuses. Who are they going to? You're going to have other FBI officials or Justice Department officials interview current Justice Department officials? Imagine you working in an office and there's allegations of crime by people in the office. Should the decisions on prosecutions be made by their colleagues? Of course not. Of course not. But that's what's happening now. So to have a special counsel with law enforcement separate and apart from the FBI doing the investigation. And it doesn't mean Durham's a bad guy either. It just means institutionally we have to recognize the hurdles and stop pretending he's going to be able to overcome them. Now, on the other hand, maybe I'm all wrong, and Brennan and Comey and all these people will be prosecuted. Well, point me to the signs. Point me to the signs. I don't see it. And I tell you one thing, they're never going to be prosecuted unless we get the information out. And this is why Rick Grinnell's releasing of the unmasking names, it puts pressure on the Justice Department. Because you can bet Barr would never have released this. I just know. We've been pushing for the release of information for years from the Justice Department. This is not their style. This is all Rick Grinnell. But it's the release of information like this, and this is why we do the FOIA work we do, and we do the litigation we've done in the past and we are doing now, is because we know that getting the information out makes it harder for the Justice Department not to do the right thing. Not impossible, because Lord knows they're quite capable of doing the worst thing. It may not be sufficient, but it certainly is part of the necessary component of getting full accountability. Although the transparency provides partial accountability. Now, Biden has, for instance, been caught in misstatements about his role in the targeting of Flynn. Obama's been caught. I mean, you have Obama. I forgot the biggest piece of evidence highlighting Obama's personal involvement. He came out and attacked Barr and Flynn in, quote, a private phone call to his goon squad that was leaked. He said some basically factually baseless thing about it. He didn't understand how he never understood a perjury charge ever being pulled back before like that, which doesn't even, I mean, it's just too silly a statement to even push back on. I mean, under the Obama administration, perjury charges against people close to the Obama administration were ignored with the president's personal intervention in the case of Hillary Clinton. But for everything that's gone on, to have Obama pop up and say something nasty about Flynn, it further highlights that he has skin in the game when it comes to getting Flynn. And I don't think Flynn's talked about, I think he has a book about it a little bit. But once he's done with this albatross around his neck, I'd be interested to hear what Flynn thinks about what is the basis for Obama's hating him. I think it's because Flynn exposed the failures of the various policies of Obama internally, and he hated it. And he knew Flynn was right, and so he needed to be destroyed. Because remember, Trump was warned by Obama about two things: North Korea and General Flynn. So he had something in it. And then, of course, you had the Obama Oval Office meeting where Flynn is discussed as well. So Judicial Watch is going to be following up on this list. We're going to be asking for more information about it. We're asking for more information about other unmaskings. And I hope this is the deluge in terms of transparency. And if I were the president, I would just double down on transparency here in terms of getting as much information out there as you can. So certainly that's what Judicial Watch is doing independently, but it'd be nice to go to court and have the agencies on their side of transparency rather than opposing and objecting to our efforts to bring transparency on the worst corruption scandal in American history, Spygate / Obamagate.